You are listening to the Spurs-Related podcast. Listen for free on Anchor and Spotify.
Hello guys, welcome to the Spurs-Related podcast as usual, and you're joined by today, as usual, Joseph McBride. Welcome in as always, Joe.
Nice to do this again. Same hat, different week.
It is nice to do it other than the result, but we'll get into that. And as always, we've got a special guest alongside us today. Hollie Agombar, Spurs YouTuber, is alongside us. Welcome on in again, Hollie.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me back on. I really enjoyed it last time. Like I said, it's going to be a bit hard to digest that game at the weekend, but nevertheless, here we go.
Well, we've got a bit of time on our hands, and we've got a bit of time on our hands to talk about how unexpected that, I was about to say loss, but it was actually a draw, wasn't it? It felt like a loss. So, yeah, we got a bit of time to analyse that and understand what actually went wrong at the weekend, because there is several things that went wrong. And I'm going to start off by talking about how on earth did we concede 2 goals, Hollie?
It's a very good question. I wish I had the answer, because I don't think anybody's got the answer at the moment. The defence has always been the backbone that decides to break each week. And I just don't know what we need to do, because against Villa, we pretty much set up the same way and we managed to get the job done. This time, we just caused our own problems again. I mean, you take the likes of Tanganga and the likes of Sanchez together. I don't know what it is. I don't think we have a player in there that can organise that back line. Toby, I think, can do a good job. But again, he wasn't there, which is another question. Why wasn't he involved?
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It's so difficult. I think Rodon is probably the way forward. But again, you can't have that back four the way it was lined up, because I think Reguilon had a poor game as well. It was just all over the shot at the back, really.
Yeah, you mentioned at the end there Reguilon, and that was something I was going to talk about as well. And he's actually not been as good as... I mean, I'm not going to say he hasn't been good at all for Spurs, because he has shown really good signs. But I think a lot of fans are a bit underwhelmed with how he's done in recent performances in particular. Joe, what were your thoughts on, obviously, the game as a neutral, as always, and how do you summarise what went wrong for Spurs, basically?
It was frustrating again. I actually, despite you going behind early on, I was actually quite impressed, because obviously with Tottenham, you go behind or you drop points. But the fact that you went behind early and within 6 minutes had turned it around, I was actually impressed. I was like, this is much better. The intent, obviously, the first goal was kind of a scrappy one, but it was good play from Lo Celso and Ndombele, and Kane just as a poacher. And the second one, the way you hit it, it was just something about it. The way you turn it around so quickly, I was like, this is a different Tottenham. This is better. This is a good mentality. But then they could have scored a lot more as well. I mean, Lloris was actually really good. I don't know how Dwight Gale missed in the first half. And he actually kept you in it. Almiron after the break. Kane could have had a hat-trick. It was a game of, what ifs again, which seems to be a common theme with Tottenham. What went wrong? Sanchez didn't have a great game, but that happens. I think they actually deserve the point. I'll be honest with you. I know this is not a nice thing to hear on a Spurs podcast, but they didn't deserve to lose the game.
I would agree. I would have said that actually, and I was saying this on another podcast earlier in the week, if anyone deserved to win that game, it wasn't Spurs. It was Newcastle, because I mean, they had 22 shots, and Hollie, how did we allow Newcastle to have 22 shots on goal?
I don't know. Everybody just seems to fall asleep. And it's funny that obviously you mentioned that the fact that it was nice to see Spurs turn it around quickly. I think that's a common theme, though. I think Spurs are worse when they're winning. We tend to sit off, and I think that was the problem. Obviously, we managed to get those 2 quick goals in concession, and then we sat off again. And don't get me wrong, we could have turned it around again, because obviously Harry Kane hit the post, and we'd probably be talking about a different story. But it was just too little too late again. We just tend to sit off the gas. We don't push forward. And I think going behind actually does us a favour, as bad as that sounds.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I think Spurs have been absolutely horrendous when they're winning. And I know that, like you said, that sounds a bit strange, but actually Spurs seem to only play well when they're not winning. And they chased the game, like Joe was saying, we turned around in 6 minutes, which was nice to see. But the thing that really frustrates me week in, week out, and this is when I'm not surprised, I messaged someone during the game. I can't remember if it was Joe or whoever it was, but anyway, the point is we were 2-1 up, and I said, if we don't score again, they're going to score. And I know that sounds really simple, but Newcastle were attacking. We were holding back, almost waiting for the goal or waiting for them to have a really key chance. And instead of the counter-attack, which should have been for 3-1, if we were going to play counter-attacking football, Lamela, I don't know why he can't pass in the space of 10 seconds. He takes about 100 more touches than he needs to. But even if that was the one moment where we should have scored, which we were 3-on-1, the fact that we sit off so much causes that pressure and causes us to then either concede or nearly concede. So I would agree with both of what you're saying there, and I think something needs to change now. Whether that's the Mourinho tactics, he's almost too stubborn. I feel like he's almost too stubborn to change that kind of style. Would you agree, Holly?
I don't know, he has tried to change it. We saw against Everton it was all out attack and we still couldn't manage to defend very well. So it's hard for me to sit here and say I think it's all Jose's fault, because I think he is probably part of the problem, because like you said, his adaptability isn't 100% great. But then I think to myself, you've got the likes of those players whose mentality is like, if you're not going to play me, or if you're not going to, give me my worth, I'm going to throw my toys out the pram. And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of players. And people are saying Jose's lost the dressing room. I honestly think those players are losing the dressing room, because it's something we spoke about the other day about, I can't remember who it was on my channel, but we were talking about it, and it was the fact that we've got so much dead wood in the team that I feel like that's something that brings the morale down in the squad, because you're thinking the likes of Harry Kane's got to think, oh no, hang on a minute, I've got the likes of Sissoko or the likes of Lamela that I don't think are going to do a great job, and I've got to try and carry the team. Now, it's tough for me to sit here and say that, but I just think we need a massive overhaul. And if Jose's given the tools, and that is, like, you've seen the Højbjerg was his signing, he's been brilliant. He's managed to turn around the likes of Ndombele. I think it's just a personal problem on a lot of these players, because I know we all laugh and joke about Harry Winks and the fact that he's still sat there behind me, but he's one of them. He came out and said, oh, I want to play for England. Then prove your worth on the pitch, rather than hiding behind players or saying, oh, I'm falling out with Jose. I honestly think it's a player's mentality. I just think they're bigger than what they're worth at the moment, and it's just not a great balance.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think we've really seen that in recent weeks with the fact that the players are losing themselves. I think it's easy for the players after Mourinho leaves to say, and I'm sure they wouldn't because they're too professional, but to almost say like, I wasn't on board with the Mourinho tactics or whatever it may be. In future years, they may come and say that. But the fact that, they're not helping themselves, are they? Is what you're saying. They're not helping themselves. They're putting in 2 out of 10 performances at best, some of them. And like you said, it's really sad to see. Joe, would you agree with what we were saying about the whole mentality and the whole, players aren't helping themselves? Or are you more in a boat of it's more Mourinho's fault?
I'm certainly not in that boat. I've told you before, I think Mourinho's system works. He just needs to have the players to do it. His systems work wherever he's gone. He plays the same way. When you do counter-attack, well, the players you've got is lethal. So if you could sort out that back line, you'd be so hard to play against. You just don't have the quality of the back to play the way he plays. His game plan is so defensive, but without being too disrespectful, when your defense is pretty woeful, it's always hard to play the way he wants to play. He's a great manager, and he has tried to change things. He's not too stubborn not to do that, but he's had to change it because he hasn't got the quality to play the way he wants to play. So he's tried to adapt. But I just think we keep saying the same things, overhaul Deadwood, because it's true. It's what needs to happen, and that can't happen till the summer. You need to prioritize on defense this summer, like massively. It's got to be improved. And I think if you do stick with Mourinho and you do back him, if you give him the defense that he needs, then there's no reason why his system can't work.
Absolutely. I think what you're saying there is, both of you, is that we need a really good summer. And I think unless Levy really backs Mourinho, then I can't see it happening, because I'm not sure Mourinho is going to stay. If we don't get top 4, if we don't win the Carabao Cup, I think a managerial change will happen. But I guess we have to wait and see. And I think Joe's right. If you do give him the right tools, I think Mourinho would do a job. And I don't think he's had many of his own signings yet. Like he's had Højbjerg and Joe Rodon, if you like, and that's been about it really. Most of it is picking up the pieces from the Pochettino era. So yeah, I think there is a serious summer on board, whether it's managerial or players. And I think actually, if it is a managerial change, he's going to need new players anyway. 100%. I think some of these players need to go, like you said. I'm gonna ask a different question now. I'm gonna go with Holly. Like, obviously, you're saying the defense isn't quite there, and we all know that the defense is horrendous at the moment. Do you think part of the reason why our defense isn't there is, I know we're talking about the centre backs a lot of the time, and we need an out and out centre back. But let's talk about something else different. Let's talk about the fullbacks. So when Pochettino was in charge, we had Trippier and we had, sorry, my mind's gone blank. Trippier and Rose, who were playing absolutely phenomenal at the time, 2 of the best fullbacks in the league. Do you think some of the reason is the fullbacks haven't been hitting the ground running?
yes and no, because I thought Trippier wasn't great after his performance after the World Cup. I thought he dipped. So I think for Trippier to move, it's probably the best thing. But now you sit here and think we've got the likes of Serge and Doherty, and I don't even want to talk about Doherty. Please don't mention. I just don't want to talk about him. But it does show. I think obviously attacking wise, I think Serge is okay when he does finally find the ball beating the first man from across. But defensive wise, you're always sitting there thinking, oh my God, he's going to kebab someone in the box and he's going to give away a penalty. And don't get me wrong, I think in recent weeks or in recent months, he's definitely developed. But again, he's gone missing. I don't know whether Jose's fallen out with him, but you don't see him on the team sheet so much anymore. With Reguilon, I think it's an attacking nature that we've missed. Certainly with the likes of Danny Rose now playing in the under-21s, I think it is. He's definitely fallen off the face of the earth. But I think it's good that we've got these attacking options because Reguilon's cross into the box is something I think Kane's really missed because he does add that element of attack. But defensive wise, like I said, I think he went missing against Newcastle again. He was getting ripped to pieces down that side. So I can kind of see your point, but I think when that ball comes into the box, I just sit there and hope that we manage to get a head on it. And 9 times out of 10, it isn't normally a Tottenham head that clears it. So I think centre-backs is probably the biggest issue. I think we can kind of adapt to our fullbacks. But yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying. We need to stop that cross coming in. But again, I think having Reguilon is something to improve our game going forward. And like I said, it definitely helps Harry Kane with a cross into the box.
Would agree, and like you said, Reguilon didn't have a good game on Sunday. I think everyone can clearly see that. But Reguilon has been a bright spark in a not so great season, really, hasn't he? So it's definitely something. Well, in terms of the defence, anyway, he's been a bright spark. But like we said, there's definitely a centre back that needs to be bought, no matter what, no matter if we get a new manager or not. Joe, I've been watching Ryan Sessegnon a little bit. I know he's had a bit of an injury. He was out for quite a few games. He's on loan at Hoffenheim in Germany. Would you say Ryan Sessegnon could be a backup option for Reguilon?
100%. I haven't seen a lot of him in Germany, but you've signed him for a reason. He's a youngster. He's got great experience out there, I'm sure. So, I mean, you don't think Reguilon? He's been out for quite a while, isn't he? Like a month or so. He's only just got back. But obviously, Sessegnon's definitely one for the future. And I don't think he can make your defense any worse right now, especially as a wing back option. So I definitely give him a go after the summer.
I wouldn't say like Sessegnon's going to necessarily come into the first team. I mean, like, do you think because sometimes when you bring in a player, and actually this happened with Doherty, Serge Aurier was phenomenal if we remember at the start of the season. And actually the reason why he was so good is because he knew that Doherty was behind him, ready to come into that first team should, Serge Aurier start playing bad. And then Serge Aurier had to be in the first team because he was playing so well. So sometimes when another another player comes in the same position, it makes the other player play better. So we might see the same with Ryan Sessegnon and Reguilon. He might push him even further. Who knows? We don't actually know what's going to happen with Reguilon. There's a back clause, as we know. So we're not too sure what's going to happen there. Holly, what are your opinions on Ryan Sessegnon?
So yeah, you can tell he's obviously beefed up a bit. I mean, when he was at Spurs, he was like a skinny little thing, and now he's definitely stopped on the weights and things. So yeah, like I said, like Joe said, it can't bring anything worse to our squad. And like you said, I mean, hopefully it does push Reguilon on. But again, it's a nice option if we do manage to get into Europe next season to have that option to play him in a few of those games. So yeah, it's a promising side to have Sessegnon back at Spurs, I think.
100%. And you say about the stocking up and having a bit more physique. The same's happened with Olly Skipp, as we all know, at Norwich. Are you excited to see him back?
I am, but I also think if Norwich get promoted, I could see Olly Skipp maybe swaying to stay at Norwich because he's obviously a god at Norwich at the moment. So, and the thing is he going to get over the likes of Højbjerg in the first team? Are we going to see that? Or is he all right to sit on the bench and rotate where needs be? Or could we see a dynamic of them both playing on the pitch at the same time? There's a lot of different questions to come into it. But if he does decide to come back to Spurs, I'm all for it because he's done wonders at Norwich.
100%. I think you're right. I think if Norwich do go up, which is looking very likely at the moment, I think he probably is going to stay potentially for another year on loan. Maybe it might be made a permanent. Who knows? I hope it's not made a permanent because I think he is Tottenham through and through. He's very local. And bless you, Joe. He is very much a local. And I think Olly Skipp does have a lot of potential. He's still very young, as Joe was saying. Like we feel like we've been hearing about him for a number of years, but he's only 20 or 21. So I think he's got a lot of potential and probably more potential than that man that's to the right of you, Holly. Now, we don't go a podcast without talking about Harry Winks, and he's been linked with, I can't believe it, what I'm saying here, but apparently he's been linked with Atletico Madrid, a few sources have said. So would you shake the hand of the Atletico Madrid chairman for £20 million, Holly?
I'd snap his hand off. Can have him, to be honest. Like, I really don't know what it is with Winks. I just don't know. I think it's maybe the transition from the father figure from Poch to a boss man in Jose, because Jose will just tell you exactly what he thinks, and I don't think that's suited very well with Harry Winks himself. So for me, I think the Spanish Football League will definitely aid his progression, because he does like to hold possession of the ball, play that slow moving game where he passes it sideways and backwards. So sadly for me, I think it's the right time for him to go. And I think the only way he's managed to maybe survive so long at Tottenham, because I think the last good game he had was that Real Madrid game in the Champions League. I think because he's lasted so long, because he is Tottenham through and through, and we're too sentimental as fans. I mean, I've just got Harry Winks there now for banter, I think, just because it's a good talking point, because everybody remembers he's there. So yeah, I think it's time to shift him on, and it's so strange to think that Pep Guardiola wanted him all those years ago.
Yeah,
I think it's time to go.
I think like you were saying, he's almost living off that game against Real Madrid, and I was saying that to Joe the other day. Actually, his last good game was probably 2017. I think that's actually a bit harsh. He has had a few good games since then, but his best game in a Spurs shirt was that game against Real Madrid, and he, like you said, the sentimental factor is almost worn off now. It's like time to go, time to move on. Thanks for the memories, Harry Winks, but you can go and enjoy life in Spain if this is true. For me, anyway. Joe, would you agree? Would you say it's time to go for Winks?
Is that actually true? They actually want him?
Honestly, there is a number of Sky Sports Lyle. There's been a number of sources saying apparently Atletico Madrid want to sign him in the summer. Now, if this is true, let's go for this podcast's sake. Let's say it's true. Then an actual club wants to sign Harry Winks. Would you take the hand off?
100%. Agent Trippier or what? That's mental. I mean, that still baffles me. I think 100% cash in on him. Don't want to sound, too harsh, but you should have cashed in on Dyer when Man United were rumouring 50 mil back in the day. You'd be silly not to take it. There's so many players ahead of him. That cash could be used. And we said about Deadwood as well. Like, take the offer, reinvest that money into the defence, into a different position, and go from there. He's an all right player, and as you said, sentimental value. He's played well for Spurs, but just it's time to go. You can't improve a club off sentiment and all that. You've just got to keep the ball rolling. Send him off to Spain. I'm sure he'll play well out there. He'll definitely get a yellow card a game. I'm sure him and Trippier will link up well over there. So, good wishes and all the best for him, to be honest.
I think to summarise what you just said there, Agent Trippier does say 1,000 words, really, doesn't it? I mean, that is very true. And whether these rumours are true, we don't know too much. I mean, even if you get a credible source, it still might not be true. It still might have come from someone's mouth, completely made up on the spot. But we'll soon see about Harry Winks anyway, which brings me on to the next point, which we've already touched on slightly, which is about the defence. Now, I think we can't go this podcast without talking about Davinson Sanchez at the weekend. An absolutely shocking performance, and it's not his first shocking performance of the season. Holly, what's your opinion on Davinson Sanchez and what needs to happen with him in the summer?
Just got no words for him, to be honest. I think the only thing that really gets him out of trouble and makes him look good, shall we say, or semi-good, is the fact that he's got pace. If he really didn't have pace, I just wouldn't know what to think. And I think come the summer, it's the right time to shift him out, because for me, I don't think he's a compliment to anyone at the back. I mean, he had a good couple of games when he was playing with the likes of Toby, but you stick any other formation without Toby in it, and let's be honest, Toby isn't going to be here forever. So I think we need to cut our losses and just get rid of him. But again, it's this whole Daniel Levy-Enick thing. They're not going to want to cut their losses when they paid so much for him. That's the trouble. So I'd like to see him gone. Whether that happened, though, is a different story.
I would 100% agree. I think Sanchez has almost been found out as a defender. I think we cut our losses to the maximum, and if someone a bit like Winks, if someone offers 20, 25, 30 million, 30 million is going to be a push, but if someone offers near that region, I think we've got to take it. And I think Sanchez actually has been a very good centre-back for us at times. I think let's not forget he has actually, that first season he joined, he was one of our best centre-backs. and he played alongside either Vertonghen or Toby Alderweireld. And I think when he plays, I think he's worse when he plays alongside a less experienced centre back. When he has Toby there as well, he can hold his own slightly, but when he's with Rodon or when he's with Tanganga or whoever it may be, he just looks like a lost lamb. You think he'd be the more experienced one and show Rodon how to defend. Actually, Rodon was showing him how to defend on Sunday, so that's always a concern. And I think that summarises that. Joe, anything to add about Davinson Sanchez?
I know you said he plays well when he's by Toby or Jan, but that's more testament to them. You know, those big experienced centre halves, they elevate the whole defence around him, they command them. So the fact that he can't perform and he is meant to be the more experienced one, it just kind of goes to show that he's not good enough. And one centre back can change everything. You see at Liverpool with Van Dijk, like change the whole back line. Whoever plays next to him is great. He's meant that, you know, Trent can play well, and that could also be good for your fullbacks as well.
So would you, from going what you're saying, sorry there, Joe, from going what you're saying there, if we sign a world-class centre-back worth 50, 60 million in the summer, would you keep hold of Davinson Sanchez because he might start playing better?
I can't see you selling him anyway, but 100%, like, if you can sign a world-class defender, which you need to do, it can elevate the whole defence. And if it can bring his game on, and if the potential that everyone thought that was going to come with him when you signed him, you know, could come out and he could progress, then it'd be like signing two centre-backs in one. So, but yeah, he was not great on the weekend, as we know. But he's still quite young, right? I'm pretty sure he's still got a lot of years.
24, I think. 20,
exactly.
24 or 5, I think. Yeah. So
you got to stick with him for another couple of seasons at least. But he's not great at the moment. You need to play Toby with him to get anything out of him.
Yeah, he's certainly not great at the moment, and I've seen a lot of backlash on the social media about Davinson Sanchez, and actually Spurs official came out and confirmed that there was a lot of racial abuse pointed towards Davinson Sanchez on social media at the weekend, which I can't believe we're still talking about racism in a way, because, you know, I just don't understand why it's still a thing, and especially every single week when, you know, a player, whatever race they are, it seems to get abused because of their skin color. I don't understand it. I really don't, and I think it's absolutely disgraceful. If whoever it is, if they're fans, they're not football fans, whoever it may be, I think it's an absolute disgrace. And I think Hollie and Joe will back me up. I think there's no room for racism in any way, shape, or form in football. So yeah, it's sad to see that, definitely, and sad to see that we're still talking about it after the, you know, after all the events that have happened in the last year. The fact that for some reason, sometimes we still don't feel like we've put a step forward in it with all this racism is it baffles me. I almost lost for words with saying it, so I'm going to let Hollie speak about it for a minute.
It is disgusting. I mean, we all know Sanchez hasn't played the best, but there's no need to include his race in it. Like, come on. It's just, we've gone backwards, like you say. Like, there's no need for it. But I think the only way forward is to sign this petition that's out at the moment, that you have to have ID verification to open a social media account. Because at the moment, all these trolls aren't getting, they're not getting criminalised for it, because there's no way of tracing exactly who they are unless you put loads of police time into it. Whereas if it was, say, I don't know, someone, Joe Blogs or something, you know exactly who their name is, and let it go on Sky, let them name and shame them, because that's the way it will stop, when people actually get ridiculed for it. Because at the moment they're just getting away with it, and I think that's the way forward. They need to have some form of ID verification to open a social media account.
I think, like you said, 100%, and I know Joe has talked about this in previous podcasts and previously to me about the fact that you need ID verification. So I'm going to let him continue your point there.
I've been saying this for so long. Like, the reason people keep doing it is they can hide behind an account, they can hide behind a screen, and they're not being held accountable for their actions. And it's just a disgrace. You know, I'm not going to name any certain accounts in particular, but you see on Twitter just some idiot, could be a 14, 15-year-old, it doesn't matter who it is, just hiding behind some dumb little avatar and just spouting absolute rubbish. And it's just a disgrace, and they can get away with it. They think it's funny, and it's not. They need to be named, shamed, criminalized, and taught that it's not right. And there's an argument about the ID thing, about, the government, whoever can track us, and it's a violation of our rights. It's a violation to be racially abused online. Like, they're the ones being violated, not everyone else that's not being held accountable for it. And if you don't want to be, whatever, don't have social media. It's a choice to have it. So it's not a violation of any rights. You're choosing to sign up to it. And by choosing to sign up to it, if you're going to say stuff, you're choosing to be held accountable for being a disgrace. And it's got to happen because I can't see any other way it's going to stop it. It angers me so much.
100%, and I think, like you said, if people are saying there's a violation to know your address and your name, then they're not mature enough to have social media anyway, are they? Really?
Just don't have it. It's a choice.
Like you said,
just don't have it. If you don't want that, stay off the grid. But if you're going to say stuff, I want to know who you are, and I want you to be punished for it because it's not going to stop otherwise.
It's almost like it's their way of getting away with being a criminal by using, like you said, the avatar and the protection to, like, it's a bit like I can't remember the word is. It's like an ice hockey, Joe, where you're dressed in all the equipment, so you feel like you're more masculine or brave to say something or have a fight like an ice hockey because you've got that defense on you. So I think it's a disgrace, and I think something needs to change. And I'm gonna find this petition, like you said, Holly. Send me the link. We're gonna put it in the. We're gonna put it in the bio. We're going to put it in the, well, I haven't signed it, so I'm going to do it after this, but I'm going to put it in the description of the video. Go and sign that petition because I'm all for that. I think that's a good idea. And I think if the government don't do anything about it after the petition, then I think it's after a certain amount of signatures, they have to look at it, don't they? So
10,000, they have to give a formal answer to it, and 100,000, they have to discuss it in Parliament.
Well, I don't. If it hasn't hit 100,000 already, I'd be surprised. But let's hope the government do something about that. But yeah, I think that summarizes that. I think go and sign the petition, and let's move on from racism in society and in general, really, because I don't understand why we actually still need to have to talk about it in a way for the fact we haven't actually improved from everything that's happened. I think it's ridiculous for some people letting it down. Anyway, moving on. So the United focus on Sunday, playing Man United. It's going to be a tough game. Holly, what are you expecting from the game?
I think from now on in, I'm just going to go with low hopes because otherwise I just get crushed. Like I said, against Newcastle, I was happy. I thought we were going to win like 3-1, 2-1. No, completely opposite. So if I go in there with the expectations we're going to lose, I'll be happy afterwards. So I really don't know anymore. I don't know if we can get any worse than what we already are. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I'm not going to have an expectation. I'm not actually going to give you the score prediction on any channel this week because I actually thought Tottenham would win on Sunday, and I actually don't think they're going to win on this Sunday. So I'm not even going to give a prediction because maybe it will go in my favour. But I mean, how do you even predict this, Joe? Do you think it's you can be as honest as you want, Joe? Do you think it's going to be a Man United win or anything else?
I think it'll be a draw. There's a lot to it because obviously, from a personal point of view, you did them 6-1 earlier in the season at Old Trafford, and the red card. There's a lot to it that I'm sure they're going to want revenge from. But at the same time, sorry to remind you, but they have Europa League. You guys don't at the moment, so they've got a tie against Granada on Thursday, and then the second leg the week after, and this falls in the middle of both of them, and they're not too far away from even trying to win that now. So 100% of their focus isn't going to be on this game, despite all the other factors involved. And also, they've got a little bit of a cushion on top four, whereas you guys are needing to chase it, especially after dropping another 2 points on the weekend. So you have the rest period for it. You can fully focus on it. They're going to have focus elsewhere, but they are playing well at the moment. You guys were until just slightly recently. I remember when all the Spurs fans thought there was a crisis and you were still top of the form table in the league. It just kind of sums up the club sometimes. But I could see it being a score draw, maybe 1 or 2 all. I won't be surprised.
Do you know what? I think I would take a score draw against Man United. I know that's kind of quite pessimistic, but from what I saw on Sunday, I can't see an improve unless we drastically improve on that performance defensively and offensively. Actually, I know we haven't talked much about the offensive play because we can talk about is the defense at the moment, but actually, I think offensively we were absolutely horrendous on Sunday as well. And if it wasn't for Mr. Harry Kane, I don't know where we'd be because Son looked like a lost lamb when he came on. Lucas wasn't as good as he was against Villa. He did show signs and he was energetic as always. I feel like Lucas is one of the players that really plays for the badge. And then Lamela, he didn't have a good game when he came on. It was. I mean, I don't know why he didn't make that pass. I'm still a bit haunted over that because if everyone knows what I mean, which bit of play I mean, it was 2-1. There's 3-on-1. He starts doing like the ball rolls and just why don't you pass it earlier? But Anyway, Holly, what's your I'm going to ask you for a score prediction, but if you don't want to answer it, I'm very, very happy that you don't. You can tell me what you think is going to happen in the game instead.
I'm just thinking about it now. I was thinking to myself, I know we're still trying to push for top 4, but the fact that Chelsea dropped points is probably why we buckled under pressure. It seems to be whenever there's an opportunity to go ahead in the league table because teams above and below us have kind of dropped points, we don't seem to push on. So maybe have the opposite effect. We might actually get a win this week when you're thinking to yourself, I would have rather took that win last week. But I don't know. It's a tough one. Maybe if I sit here and say, I don't know, 2-1 loss, then if we win 2-1, I'll be happy. So I'll go with a 2-1 loss.
Wow. It's predicting a Spurs loss. I mean, I don't blame you, to be honest. I can understand the honesty there. But saying that, Man United weren't actually overwhelming on who did they play? Brighton on Sunday.
They caused them a lot of problems, and they should have had a penalty, Brighton. But, Sky Sports Man United.
You say that though, Joe, but although they should have scored more goals, most of the time we should have scored more goals and we don't. So we can go either way. But I don't think Man United are on the best form. I really don't. And yes, they're grinding out results at times and a lot of the time in the season, but I don't think Man United in April are as good as the Man United in December, for example. I think, every team has their peak and low. I feel like Man United, with all these fixtures like you're talking about in the Europa League as well, it could affect them. And I hope it does affect them for our benefit. But then again, Granada aren't the best team in the world, are they? So we'll have to see on that one.
To cause them upset.
Oh, that would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to the Q&A section of the podcast now. As always, we've asked Spurs-related followers to send in their questions about the game, about anything Spurs-related. And these questions are for Holly and ourselves. So let's crack on. Let's start with Holly. The first one is from @Shev_Rasha. And he says, is it time for Lamela to leave?
Is he ever going to leave? I think that should have been a question we should have asked about 5 years ago. I think, like I say, with Enoch and Levy, I think they're never going to cut their losses. And the fact they've held on for him for so long, I don't think he's going to go this summer. I really don't. I think he's just going to stay. So I'd like him to go, but I've liked him to have been gone for ages. So, yeah, my answer to that is no, he's going to stay.
Yeah. Joe, what are your opinions on Lamela? Do you think he's going to leave or stay? And do you think he's ever going to leave, a bit like Holly was saying?
Well, he was brought in as a Bale replacement, wasn't he? So it hasn't really gone too great. But he's a passionate player, so I think he actually does bring something to the team when he does play.
Yellow cards.
Glad you said it.
Ball rolls, Rabonas, yellow cards. But I think, I don't think he'll leave. If he does, it'll be for a cut price fee to back to Italy or something. But again, your board's too stubborn to get rid of players that you've invested in. And I think he'll just keep being played until, I don't know, either he gets banned or actually starts producing.
Gets banned. Okay. Next question is from THFC Insta. I'll give this one to Holly. It's an interesting one, actually. Thoughts on the impact having fans back for the final against City could have?
It's a good question, isn't it? Because we haven't seen it all season. I think it's good that we've obviously got fans in. I know it's probably a cut between 4,000 for each set of fans, but I don't think it will make too much of it. I mean, I hope it will bring the players up to speed and they'll actually start playing because there's people watching them this time. But I just hope that day is just something out of the blue because City are just another beast at the moment. So
no, we don't want it to be something out of the blue because then it would be a blue moon. So.
Yeah, but when I say out of the blue, I mean like they actually decide to turn up, they actually want to play for the badge, and they're actually in a final. And this is the thing that I've still haven't wrapped my head around, the fact that Dynamo game, that was literally the same players playing in that second leg, and they still managed to cost it and not go through for a trophy. So I hope in this City game, the fans get behind them. They actually realise this is a cup final, guys. You need to turn up, and this is your chance to win a trophy. So hopefully the fans will have a positive effect.
I think you're spot on there. But for me, look, I looked at that question. I thought it was a good question. And I thought, again, don't get me wrong, it is a good question. But I'm thinking to myself, 4,000 fans in Wembley Stadium, which is a 90,000 seater stadium, it's going to be like, I don't know. It's just going to be like ants trying to shout in a massive cauldron. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to have much effect. Joe, would you agree, or do you think it's going to have some impact?
I think it'll have an impact, 100%. Like, you're still performing to people, and it'll still be a different dynamic that they haven't been used to and they've wanted for a long time. It will look like the National League playoff final, which is similar capacity, and it actually will. But I mean, if City can fill their 4,000, then fair play. And they've probably been so good this season because they're not used to playing with fans. But no, I think it will have an effect, 100%.
Nice. Two not needed comments there. That was nice. I enjoyed that.
It's just got to be done, isn't it? I'm not a big City fan.
Really? Didn't pick up on that yet?
No, it will have an impact for both teams. Just performing in front of everyone is different. There is that exhibition feel or training ground feel, and it's just the coaching staff and everyone shouting. But when you've got the added impact of the fans, I think it'll be good. It'll push everyone. I know it's very limited amount compared to the 90,000, so the 45,000 you'd have normally, but I still definitely think it'll switch the players on more. Would
agree. I think that summarizes that one. We're going to go with another one for Holly. If you were Levy, what would you do? Sack Mourinho for 40 mil or use it on players?
Oh dear.
That was from sorry, I didn't give him credit. That was for Gustav.w.Lundo. Now I've given you a bit more time to think about your answer there. So I'm going to crack on, sorry.
I mean, personally, I'd use it to invest in players because, like I've said throughout this podcast, the fact that I think it's a mentality thing with players. How dare players think they're bigger yet they've won nothing? Yet Jose Mourinho's come in and he's won everything. Yeah, there's people saying he's a dinosaur, but like Joe said, he's done it everywhere he's been. Why can't he do it at Spurs? That's the thing for me. So I'd rather use the money to invest in players. We've got so much deadwood. Shift out the deadwood. Okay, we might not get a lot of money for them, but why spend money on shifting out a manager when who's going to want to come to Tottenham at the moment? Who's going to want to come? Who's going to be attracted to come, apart from a nice training ground and a nice stadium? They've seen the likes of Poch being put under the bus. They've seen the likes of now Jose inevitably seeming to be put under the bus. Like, I don't understand the concept of it. So I'd use the money to buy new players.
Very, very interesting stuff. Joe, what are your opinions on that one?
I said that you wouldn't be sacked just because you wouldn't be able to fund it. So if you were going to spend that money, get rid of him, it makes no sense when you could just, put that towards
players, yeah.
a huge defender or something. And, if you sack him and bring someone else in, it's just one step forward, two steps back, because then you've got to give them time. You've got to see who they want to add to the team and, adjust to new tactics. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You've got to stick with Mourinho. He's got the track record. He usually, likes 3 years at a club anyway. So I'll be surprised if he stayed beyond the 3. He shouldn't sack him. If he does, then it's just deluded, I think. Like, I can't see him going this summer.
Okay, talking about adjusting to tactics now. Gin Parente asks, do you think Mourinho's tactics are outdated, Holly?
I mean, if we had a different back four, we'd probably be having a different story saying that he's done a marvellous job. So to say that his tactics are outdated with the squad he's got, I don't think anybody can manage that team as it is. Okay, people sit here and say, Poch did a marvellous job with the players he had. Yeah, but he never got us over the line. We brought Jose in to try and get us over that line, and he still can't do it. So, like we keep saying, it's an overhaul of players. These players have been here so long, it's too stale. You need to mix it up. We've mixed it up with a manager. We need to mix it up with the players.
Would agree. Joe, do you think Mourinho's tactics are outdated?
No, the art of defending doesn't just, stop working at some point. So if you stop conceding goals, if you don't concede goals, you can't lose a game. It's not outdated. And how quick you are on the counter attack when it does work and when everyone's putting a shift in, it's lethal. Different teams have different, playing styles. And one thing I would say is that the way Mourinho plays is very different to what Tottenham have been used to for a very long period of time, which is maybe why it's going to take a bit longer to adjust if that's what they want to do. But it's certainly not outdated. You just need to have, the tools to do the job. That's all I'd say.
Yeah, I think you're basically both agreeing there in terms of we need a squad to be able to see if the tactics still work, because Mourinho's tactics are still there. It's just he hasn't got the facilities to use it how he wants to use it. And I think, as we've pretty much all decided, we need that centre-back to even start talking about if his tactics are still a thing. Okay, finally, David Almark asks, Mourinho in or Mourinho out?
Can we wait till after the cup final? Because at the moment, I'm Jose in. But again, it's really tricky because I want any manager to do well at Spurs. And I've always stuck to my gun and said, like I've said today, it's the squad. I don't think the squad's good enough. It's been too stale. It was started to have loads of cracks in that run up to UCL final with Poch, and now it's just fallen off a cliff. So I think at the moment I'm Jose in, and I will continue to be Jose in until the end of the season, and then I will make my mind up, because if he hasn't won that cup, it's going to be a very slippery slope for him to try and crawl back up from that. So at the moment, Jose in, but we'll have to wait and see.
I think that's very well summarised. I think, like you said, we need until the end of the season to then decide whether you have gone to Mourinho out or not. But I think it's fair enough you're Mourinho in at the moment. I know a lot of people are Mourinho out, but I would probably agree. I'd say give it till the end of the season, see if we got top 4 or even the trophy, then decide from there. Because, like you said, there's only so much you can do with this squad. It's this real decayed, deadwood squad full of deadwood players and a few absolutely world-class players that might not even stay. So we'll have to see. Joe, very finally, Mourinho in or Mourinho out? And I know you're not a Spurs fan, so you don't have the same anger and passion about it, but give us a verdict.
Mourinho in, you got to back your man. And what I will say, well, yeah, first of all, Mourinho in. I think you've got to back him. You're both saying about give it to the end of the season to decide. I think that's just how it should be anyway. It annoys me so much when everyone's talking about all of this. When you've literally got a cup final in weeks to come, it's so unsettling. And it's the same thing with Bale coming out saying about, oh, I don't think I'm going to stay. I want to go back. Like, you're saying it in the middle of the season. Like, why? Wait till the end of the season. And you see it in the media with Southgate, everyone being like, is he the right man for the job? We're trying to qualify for a World Cup. We've got the Euros in a couple of months. He's not going anywhere. Just stop the negativity. Back him, because there's nothing's going to change between now and the end of the season anyway. It's just so annoying. I don't know why the media always talks about stuff when at the time it shouldn't be, because it generates talking points, revenue, all the rest of it. But Mourinho in, end of the season, that's when the discussion happens.
I think, like you said, the toxicity of bringing up a subject like that at the wrong time, like you were saying with Southgate and the Euros being around the corner, it's almost like it's too little too late. Why are we talking about it now? Like, you're right.
No good.
100% right. 100% right. And I think that summarises the Q&A session. Holly, thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And it's been great having you on the channel on YouTube this time, but great having you on again. Thank you very much.
No, I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, guys. It's quite therapeutic to actually talk about Tottenham. I mean, it's been a couple of days after that Newcastle draw, so it was very therapeutic. So thank you, guys.
Thanks once again, Joe, for joining us once again. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Always a pleasure, mate. Same time next week.
Same time next week. And if you're listening to us on Apple Music or Spotify, make sure you follow and subscribe to us on there to never miss a weekly upload. And if you're new and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube already, make sure you can subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss the weekly upload on there. And that summarizes all. You've been listening to the Spurs Related podcast, and we'll see you guys later. Cheers, guys.